amazing. We're live. Yes, Anika. How was Gandhi's birthday yesterday?
It was good. In India, the government had this initiative on 1st of October that everybody, as a good citizen, would take out 1 hour from their day and clean up the streets and, help out. It's like a social service. So it was nice. It was a good initiative by the government. So, yeah. I mean, the festival season has already started in India. So October marks the start of festivals.
Of all the different things. Yeah. There's a lot of public holidays in India.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Talent Talk today, we were going to talk about salaries. So negotiating salary, like what to do, how to approach it. It's one of those it's like not a taboo thing, but it's like, people find that difficult a lot of the time. It's quite interesting. Also, like negotiating for yourself is a bit different sometimes to like negotiating for other things. I know sometimes you might just get offered something awesome and it's great, So let's go through salary, because I think that's just, I think there's a lot of value there for people. Let's stick our little ticker tape on. What are your kind of initial thoughts on that? Should we set the scene? Should we set a scene?
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with, when is the right time for negotiating salary? I think, it completely depends. When do you think is the right time in the organization to talk about this topic? Because as you rightly said, that it is a taboo to talk about negotiating the salary within the system. So it's always about the timing. If you think the company is doing quite well and you have added value in your profile, so you should definitely take it as a step to go and negotiate your salary. Or if you think that, it's the annual review, that is the right time to talk about discussions, because even HR managers or the hiring managers, the line managers, they would prefer someone to talk internally rather than, looking out for an opportunity, because it's always good to have these open communication discussions with the team about if you're evaluating or re-evaluating your salary.
Yeah, no, that's true. And so I think if you're an employee, I always think that, most companies, well, probably every company does a yearly review. And a lot of the time, your performance is measured on a yearly basis, and you have a target goal, or just or even if that goal's like kind of range or whatever it might be, you just, you sit down usually at the end of the year, you have a review. A lot of companies will do more regular reviews. You kind of know how you're doing throughout the year, right? I mean, right? So, we do we speak every week. Every month we have a little, how's it gone? What's going on? What can we improve? Any help? Things like that. By the time you get to the end of the year, most people, you kind of know if you had a good year or not. Right? And I think timing, that's the right timing for me. You sit down, how's the year gone, with your line manager, and you'll both know broadly how it's gone. You'll also know what the economy's like and how the company's done as a whole. And so I think you got to be, you have to be realistic, I think, I wouldn't recommend going in early, before the end of the financial year, or usually it's the financial year, right? I wouldn't go in early. The only time people go in early for an extra salary is hey, I've just been offered another job, and you resign. True. And then, if you might find your line manager will try and keep you by offering you more money. Never ends up working out. Most people leave in a few months off anyway. But that might be another moment where they're actually, maybe, I was going to give you this promotion anyway, or let me give you some more money. And it might trigger something. But I think otherwise, for me, if you're happy in your firm you've got a good relationship with your manager, you're enjoying it. It's not all about money. Money's important, but there's a lot of other aspects. Then, yeah, do your best work. Come to the end of the year, and you have a conversation. And if they've offered you something awesome, amazing.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, some employees, we've seen this. They use it as a tactic. Once they have an opportunity, they would negotiate within their firm and, not take up the offer. So both ways, I think it's a detrimental move, because then you are getting blacklisted from one organization where you've got an offer in hand, and then the other organization, you are negotiating with it. So it is a betrayal. I mean, it's, again, you're losing trust in the organization. So you have to be flexible also with the approach, because sometimes people are fixated about the numbers, and it's not about the numbers, and it's about how much value you have added in the organization, what difference you've made, that you would think that the organization should give you a raise. So I think that's also very important to keep in mind.
100%. Like, go hard. Like, if you're in, like, there's so much opportunity in this world, like, just incredible opportunity, and so many people don't take it. There's this my kids are actually doing something at school at the moment about the importance of taking opportunities when you see them, appreciating the opportunities you have, and taking the opportunity when you see it. There's always this quote. I can't remember who did this quote. It's definitely not one of mine, although I'd love to claim it. But they say most people miss opportunities because it's dressed in overalls and looks like hard work. Like people don't seize it because it's, it's just, it's a bit hard and stuff, like, but some of the best people around, like they're going really hard. So I think for me, it's, just go hard, and the money will happen. Like, if you make yourself valuable, it's gonna come, like, by and large. Cool. So focus on what you can control. Like, just go put your effort in, work super hard, learn, develop, build good relationships, stuff like that. And then that sets the scene for a negotiation. Because I think for me, negotiation is actually, it's all the pre-stuff, right? It's like, so with a work scenario, it's, building a great relationship with your manager, just doing incredible work, like just absolutely killing it. And then it comes to the salary negotiation. It's like, hey, what's up? Whereas if you've done like no work, you've not done well, sure, you just, you're like annoying everyone, you're like that toxic person in the company, the negotiation's not going to go so well for you. So that's kind of the pre, right? Yeah. Moving into the negotiation, what would you advise people do around, like, finding out what are they worth in the market? Like, what things would you recommend people do?
I would say that, first of all, it's very important to research about what you think the salary bracket is for your profile, because that's critical to understand the range that you are fighting for in the organization, and then fight your battle wisely. So I think it's very important to prepare that range that you think that you want to go for. Secondly, I really believe that going through
where would you find the range? So what would you do, like, online, LinkedIn?
Yeah, I would do that as a precursory step, but I would also deep dive and talk about the salary structure in this profile with my peers, because if you know people who are in the same industry, it's easier to find out and see where there is some wiggle room for negotiation.
Yeah.
I think it's very important.
Yeah, no, it's great. Absolutely. Speak with peers. You can jump on Glassdoor. It's quite good.
Yeah.
You can put in a range and stuff. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because also behind this is we have this kind of, so in America, certainly, we have like these pay transparency rules. So actually companies in America, if you're watching in the US, many have to, certainly in New York and California, have to publish pay ranges on the job description. Which is really interesting. So you've got all of that there. So actually, you kind of know, like, you're applying for a job and it's like, right, we're paying X to Y, let's go. So I think for me, like, as long as Well, how do you find out? Like, as if I know in India, it's not the case. In England, it's not the case either.
Yeah.
Although in Europe, it's going to come in. So these pay transparency laws are coming in, which is going to be a game changer. But if you're in a place, I think where like India or the UK, where people don't publish the ranges generally, you've got to do a little bit more research. So I think, so and now with all the tech and everything, like you should be able to broadly know, right?
And I think it's not just about the numbers. You also factor in other aspects, like you would look up, what the location is, how many hours of work is required, or you would also see what kind of a model it is. Is it a hybrid model, or you get to work remotely, which works in favor for a lot of people. So I think that should also be factored in negotiation. And you should also see that there you are getting other benefits instead of the numbers that you're looking at.
100%. 100% agree. Yeah. Write down everything you want, what's important to you. I spoke to a friend yesterday, went out for dinner, and he's being asked to come back to the office 3 days a week. And doesn't want to go back. And actually, he'd take a pay cut to be able to work from home. He's got a different family scenario. He's got to look after his kid and this and that. So what's really valuable for him is those 3 days at home, those 5 days at home. Now he's going to be dragged back, and he's like, "Hey, look, and he started looking." So what's also interesting is like if you're in a company and something like work from home, because it's a big topic right now, right? Like a lot of big companies are wanting people back in, and then when you have something that gets taken away, you feel a little, hold on. Like, what's going on? So there's this internal thing, and then externally. So the internal thing. I think externally, like if you're applying for a job and they have a policy or whatever it is on work from home, you can take a view, can't you? But no, great advice. I think you just write absolutely everything down, and then always for me going into a negotiation, have like your stretch target, your ideal, and your walk away.
Yeah.
Right, and you have those in your mind, and that's it. And maybe you start with your stretch target, and then you can play around with it. There's some things you'll flex on. Hey, do you know what? Maybe I'll take that salary. It's a bit less than I was hoping for. Can I work from home 4 days a week? Maybe that's the trade-off or something. And also the other thing is, after you've done your research, if they come back with a really good, fair offer, that's cool. Too.
Absolutely.
Like you don't have to, there's quite a lot of like, feeling that you should always try and push back and you should try and get, but if they've come out with a really good offer and you feel like, wow, yeah, that's really cool, then that's also good. You don't have to keep pushing back.
Absolutely.
What would you do if they've come low, you're really disappointed, you've put in your best work, they clearly don't appreciate you and you are quite upset about it? Like, how would you push back?
Ideally, in such a situation, I advise candidates to have another round of conversation with the company, because there should be transparency. If you are not happy about the numbers, you should communicate it, but also be practical and flexible in your approach, because it's very easy to get bogged down by the number game, because it's always lesser than what we're expecting sometimes. So you have to have that wiggle room in your range. I would never say you should have numbers. You should have a range that you're looking at. And if it goes beyond your range, then first have a conversation with them. And if you still feel that you have added enough value in the organization for that range to be put in down into papers, but still you're not getting what you want, then of course you should probably think of plan B, which is...
What's plan B?
Good.
Oh, lucky. What would plan B be for them? Like, what would you...
I would not say start looking aggressively, because just for the numbers, it doesn't make sense that you are just chasing the numbers, because this is something I had a candidate recently who interviewed, and the numbers did not work out for him. So, funny enough, he negotiated for the car parking as a benefit because he was like, okay, if I'm not getting the numbers, I might as well chip in a few benefits. So he was struggling with car parking. So he asked that as a benefit.
Love
So,
it. Love it.
yeah.
Love it. For me, let me talk for me. I think, and let me talk actually about the employer, because there's going to be people watching this that are actually on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard actually, right? So I think for me, like everything here, everything we're talking about boils down to good communication, like open dialogue. Because if you right at the beginning, if you're leading a team and you are behaving in a way where you build good relationships with people, you're open, honest, transparent, you're communicating well, then that enables the salary conversation to be, again, like open. You can have dialogue, and when there's open dialogue and there's two willing parties, both wanting to work together and just deciding on what the terms are, then you're likely to come to an agreement. I think also for the employer, it's important to communicate. Let's say like you're in an industry and it's just been terrible this year. Like this last year has been a tough year for a lot of industries, right? And the end of this year, like if your financial year is January to December, salary conversations are coming up, bonus conversations are coming up, right? And if you're in an industry that's been really difficult, you're about to embark on some difficult conversations with people about why their bonus isn't as good as it was last year, and why you can't really afford to give them a big increase or an increase at all. Like that's going to have I think there's a lot of conversations like that coming up in like November, December. So it's a really hard conversation to have with someone. But if
Absolutely.
it's hard, right? But that's the reality. So the employee needs to be realistic with what's been going on in
Absolutely.
the world.
And to add to that, Lewis, I feel that both employee and the employer both have to be respectful of each other, because the numbers really don't matter. If you chase the numbers, it's an endless game. You'll keep on chasing the numbers because you are not comparing your numbers, you are comparing other people's numbers. Like, someone who has the same experience as I have is getting more than I do, but you are not factoring in other aspects, like maybe culture. A company has an open culture, there's open communication. Everybody is very collaborative in the team. And whereas you might be getting more in terms of the numbers at a firm where you don't like the culture and how the organization functions. So we have to factor in other factors, like if there is mediation required, you can get in a consultant. Like, sometimes we step in the negotiations too when there's a conflict and both are not coming, both are at crossroads. So mediation is also required because negotiation can be very tricky sometimes, and nobody will communicate the exact numbers.
Yeah. So with that, I think there's a few things there. It's interesting. I think with joining a new job, clearly, like most of it, a lot goes through. If you're going through an external firm like ours, I mean, we just do all of that for you. It's great, right? And our aim is a win-win. Like, you want everyone to be happy, so that's great. If you're internal, it's different. You're negotiating directly with your manager and stuff like that. So no, I think it's so important to, just up front, just build good relationships, have good communication and stuff. Just appreciate, what is going on. Like if you wander into your boss and you're like demanding a 20% pay increase and 100% bonus, and the industry is on its knees, and you like lost money. I mean,
True.
Come on. So you've really got to be realistic and stuff. It's so important, because otherwise then like trust gets lost and everything. The other thing I wanted to say was, because you were interesting, you made a good point about don't always chase the money. You look back a few years and we had all these VC tech firms, right? Come here, we're going to pay like 20% more than everyone else. We're going to give you shares. We're worth like 20 billion and the whole thing.
Yeah.
What happened a year later? everyone's out of work because everyone got made redundant. So it's interesting, right? And now we'll come back, right? Like very soon we're going to see these firms again hiring aggressively, offering like, like equity or like share options because we're going to sell in like 3 years and make billions and whatever. I'm going to be interested to see if people remember, because you've taken your, maybe you've gone there, you've got a little bit extra, but you've been sitting at home out of work because the company didn't do as well. So I think there's a lot to be said, but like joining a company that's like run well, they're not over hiring, they're not firing when times get tough. When times get tough, they're in it with their employees together, unless obviously they have to make redundancies, otherwise the firm's going to go under. But there's a lot of really well run firms that are paying well. Maybe they're not paying like top, but they're paying well, and the culture's good, and the leadership are running it in the right way. And hey, you're going to be there a while. And hey, you can even be there your whole career if you want, or a few seasons or whatever. But there's value in that. I think there's real value in that. So
I agree.
Yeah. Go on, sorry.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, it's a very difficult conversation to have with the employer when you're in the system, because sometimes we lose track of the conversation, that what are we trying to communicate, that we're not happy in the organization or we're not happy with the numbers. So you have to reevaluate your approach when you have these conversations and be very pragmatic about it, that, you might not get the numbers that you're looking at, but still you are working in an organization where you love doing the work and you've really excelled at what you have done. And that's why you're asking for revisiting the numbers that you're at.
100%. 100%. I really like that. I want to speak about two things. So I did a poll. I was just going to get the poll up and share it on the screen. But while we're doing that, the other thing so I want to talk about fair pay. And the other thing is like just going into a salary negotiation or letting a recruiter or HR know what pay range. And just to FYI, I would always give a number, not a range. So if someone asks you what are you looking for, you can either say, I'm looking for 80 to 100, right? Now, the minute you say 80 to 100, they're going to be anchored at 80. So you're not going to get 100. It's irrelevant, right?
Sure.
So don't say a range. So you can either say, I'm looking for 100, right? One number. Or you could say, which is quite nice, because some people are comfortable with this. It's a little bit of a, you could say, hey, the other roles I'm interviewing for are paying around about 100 base plus package or whatever, I'm looking for something similar. And that's kind of probably what I would do. Because with the second option, it's quite interesting because you're basically saying to them, the recruiter or internal HR or whoever, I'm interviewing in other places. They're all paying about 100. So you kind of got to get there a little bit more, up to you. What do you think? Anything else that they should do? Or?
I think you're right. Definitely that should be the approach, because mentally you might have a range, but when you're communicating to the recruiter, it's necessary to put in the number that you're looking at, because it gives you a fair advantage. Maybe you're below the range, or maybe you're above the range that they are looking at. So it saves a lot of time for both of people involved in the process.
Yeah, definitely. It's good because also you've done your research, you know broadly how much the role's paying. If you're in America, it might even be advertised. And so it just also leaves it up to them. So you might give them your stretch target, and you just so actually maybe with the second one it's a little softer. So I'm interviewing for other places, they're paying about 100, and actually it's giving them some info that other companies are hiring. This is broadly what they're paying, and so it's a really nice way to do it. Actually, I can't find my poll. The poll, basically, I'm scrolling through. My question was, I did a really interesting podcast on pay and pay transparency. And, here we go. Let me share it on, let me share it on, Let's share it on the screen. So my question was, do you think, let's share on the screen. Present. Let's share screen. Here we go. Oh, this is my question. If you could see that. Yay, there we go. So my question was, do you think knowing what your colleagues earn would benefit you and the workplace culture? So this thing about fair pay and pay transparency, it's like, do you really want to know what your colleagues are earning? And so it's an interesting question, right? So 34% of people said yes, they feel that it promotes fairness. 41% said it could create tension, and 25% said they were unsure, depending on the context. So 66% of people are basically like, I don't really want to know, which I think is quite interesting. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I think that's the ideal situation, because, whenever you know that someone's earning more than you, you ought to think about what you're earning. So it's always like, when you're going to a restaurant, you're seeing what the other person's having, or, what to order. So it's very easy to get misled by the numbers that they are talking about, because you overlook the benefits and the perks that you might be getting in the organization, which the other person not having in their organization.
Yes.
So I would say that it's very important for the employers to highlight as benefits and perks what they are offering, because the numbers, like in India and in England, are hidden, but still the benefits and the perks can make a huge difference, because then people might overlook the numbers and focus more on the organization or the benefits and perks.
Yeah, no, true. I think for me, just to sum all this up, I think as an employer, it's important to be fair, communicate things well, so people understand where they're at and they feel that they're getting paid fairly, and they know what commission, if it's a sales role or front office role, people are aware what commission structures are, all of these kind of things. I think just communicate it and people will feel comfortable. And then I think for the employee, just, make sure you prepare well for your conversation. Do all the pre-stuff, like just work incredibly well, be there for your team, your manager, do your best work. And then it just sets the scene for a nice negotiation. So if you're coming in knowing you've had an incredible year, knowing you've absolutely killed it, it's way easier. And then just make sure you understand what's going on in the world. Like, don't go asking for big salary increases if your company's had a really bad year, because,
Absolutely.
So, love it. Anika, thank you so much. Great talent talk again. We'll be doing way more. And thanks everyone for watching, and speak all soon.